Listen to my cause your body won't get me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take control, I'm trying to let it get you. Gonna be a prisoner of backstage session. Don't wanna be a summer, gonna be no mention. Ready, get you. I know, it's in the Lord God, can you hear? Hellfire, that's that action. What I got for you down there. On earth, I have ancestors. Archbishops, big up close. We'll fight you with morality. You're best of bad as any hope. Better break what you were born in sin. Right from the start we'll build ourselves and then we'll lock you in. We're sitting on judgment, condemning those that stray. We offer our forgiveness, but those will make you pay. Let's take control, now you're gonna let it get you. Gonna be a vigilant, backstage session. Say you wanna be a summer, gonna be no legend. And it get you. And on, it's a magic struck off me. And in the head of the status quo, I set the social scene. I'm most concerned about my people. I want to get them peace. Try making sure they stay in line with my army and police. My prisons and my mental homes, they never open door. For those that must run subjects, look down to answer all. Unreaders and disrespect are things I can't allow. So I'll see the peasants grovel. If they refuse to bow, let's go control, now you're gonna let it get you. Gonna be a prisoner, backstage session. Say you wanna be a summer, gonna be no legend. And it get you. These things are bad sister. She's a mother to us all. Not a dust point finger in the dike, or asses in the wall. Oh, invent the future, waiting for the seas to part. If Moses did it, with his faith she'll do it with an army. Who was on a pretty crisis, a third to be dead. Great national heritage, no matter what or where. Palace for king and queen, smash for the rich. Retreat for the wealthy, defense of privilege. They've learned the ropes knives, engaged in civil war. Fighting for the ruling class, their battle against the poor. So I just snarling, it's an island of mine. Right being through the bollocks, you bear them behind. Ran every other corner, establish secret knowledge far. Child of the future, infamous the law. It says to remind that doesn't matter what you do. It's time to synthesize every free young and you. You've got your own worry, you know it's still in school. It's not your own number, it's not their role. You've got to look for methods to undermine on the bounce. It's time to change the cycle, the future must be ours.
Okay, here we are. And, ooh, I need to make an adjustment because I had this set up for something else. Oh, there. Come on. Oh, jeez. What's going on here? I think I need to. Ooh. And ooh. Yes. Oh, too low. I almost got it. Aha! Ooh. Oop. See, now I've adjusted it. That's no. Look at that. So terrible. Oh, awful way to start the show. I should have set this up ahead of time. Come on. Just have to put the wire one place. Almost. It's too high. Come on. I know you lean down a little bit. What are you doing? Thank you. There. Terrible. Still terrible, really. Almost got it. It just needs to stay now. Just because the cable likes to pull on it. Okay, almost. That'll do. Alright, how's it going, guys? I'm so sorry. Excellent. Alright. I have for later a new intermission screen. So you'll get to enjoy the new intermission screen. It's very simple like the other one. Kind of simpler in many ways, but it took me a hot minute, and then I had to abandon part of the project because I grabbed the wrong kind of image, and it didn't have the transparent background properly, so it looked stupid. So I may make an amendment to this new one. Alright, so let's see here. Is it this one? No, was it? Ah, that one. There we are. Alright. This is Mission Control, how you doing? What is this link? What have you sent me? Is this one of yours? Oh, I see. It's some Asian stuff. Oh, okay. It's a guy playing a thing. Ah, I see. I don't know what that had to do with anything I was playing, because I was playing punk music. I'm not going to listen to that right now. I have no idea what it's about. But thanks for sharing. Oh, you're just explaining that it's chill out music, or what is a wind deer? What is that? Let me know what a wind deer is if you're still with us, Mr. Mission Control. Okay, so I believe I stopped right here with here is the list. So we're going to take it from here is the list, and we're going to go down this list. Here is the list of the ideal elements of an organizer, the items one looks for in identifying potential organizers and in appraising the future possibilities of new organizers, and the pivot points of any kind of educational curriculum for organizers. Certainly, it is an idealized list. I doubt that such qualities, in such intensity, ever come together in one man or woman, yet the best of organizers should have them all, to a strong extent, and any organizers needs at least a degree of each. Curiosity. What makes an organizer organize? He is driven by a compulsive curiosity that knows no limits. Warning cliches such as curiosity killed a cat are meaningless to him, for life is for him a search for a pattern, for similarities in seeming differences, for differences in seeming similarities, for an order in the chaos about us, for a meaning to life around him and its relationship to his own life, and the search never ends. That sounds more like journalism. But you see, we haven't had journalism in so fucking long, it's ridiculous. Anyway, he goes forth with the question as his mark and suspects that there are no answers, only further questions. The organizer becomes a carrier of the contagion of curiosity, for a people asking why are beginning to rebel. The questioning of the hitherto accepted ways and values is the Reformation stage that precedes and is so essential to the revolution. Here, I couldn't disagree more with Freud. In a letter to Marie Bonaparte, he said, "The moment a man questions the meaning and value of life, he is sick. If there is somewhere an answer about life, I suspect that the key to it is finding the core question." So he's talking about the curiosity of an organizer. But honestly, this is all just fucking journalism. This is journalism. Right? It's the angle of journalism that transcends the news. Like, it's saying it's one thing to be like the surface report. It's another thing, to go in like, I'm not organizing and I do this shit. I'm doing this shit right now and I ain't organizing shit. Right? So why this is like rule number one for an organizer, unless this is alphabetical order and there's no A's or B's in his list. Anyway, so hitherto accepted ways and values the information states. Here I couldn't disagree more with Freud. So what are we talking? When did Freud? What's he talking about? Disagreeing with Freud? Where was Freud mentioned? Similarities but differences. Research never ends. Question is mark and suspects that no answers. Further, the organizer becomes a carrier of the condition of curiosity for asking why or beginning to accept the ways. Okay. In a letter, he said, to Marie Bonaparte. Is Marie Bonaparte Napoleon Bonaparte's daughter? Like, what the hell is this? The moment a man questions the meaning and value of life, he is sick. If there is somewhere to answer about life, I suspect that the key to it is finding the core question. Sure, okay, so this is getting into purpose of life kind of stuff, sure. Asking the question, okay. Asking the question is more of a symptom of an underlying sickness, obviously. Right? And that sickness is what society is giving him. Right? Society is sick, and he is experiencing the revelation that he's been part of a sickness. Now he identifies the sickness and is stopped pretending he doesn't have it. That's the difference. Actually, Socrates was an organizer. Function of an organizer is to raise questions that agitate, that break through the accepted pattern. Socrates, with his goal of know thyself, was raising the internal question within the individual that are so essential for the revolution, which is external to the individual. Once again, that's all fucking that's what journalists do. The organizer runs with this stuff. It's one thing to be in the pursuit of knowledge. This is a pursuit of knowledge kind of thing. Of what's really going on in the world situation. What's the real meaning of a thing? Who's really behind whatever? That's what the news is supposed to do. Organizing is what you do with it. You do not have time to be an independent, researcher, bringing up the fucking whatever, and then also organizing. You just don't have the time to do both. If you are, you're just being a showman. Look at Alex Jones, right? Alex Jones is doing journalism. He's not an organizer. Now, who ultimately is an organizer? Ultimately, just politicians or organizers. That's it. Like, here's a problem. I think I understand what the problem is now. This is my proposal for the problem. The proposals, right? An organizer, you're not organized around a fucking question. Nobody's like, help me figure out what we got to tear down. That's not organization. You have to already know what you want to build or destroy to get organized around it. Otherwise, there's no... You don't organize to fucking, like, produce the news. Yeah, we're going to get together and start a local newspaper. That'll change the system. But anyway. Let's see. Function organizer raised questions, which is the goal to know thyself, was raising the internal questions within the individual that are so essential for the revolution, which is external to the individual. Once again, that's not a fucking organizer. That's, you want to know thyself? Okay, you want to do the individuation process. That's Jungian. That's absolutely solo and only solo. It's got nothing to do with either organization or journalizing. The path of knowing thyself. I've been doing that. So Socrates was carrying out the first stage of making revolutionaries. He was making the first stage of individuals. The issue is encouraging people, when controversy arises, to stand up for that controversy, and the manner in which you're going to stand up for that controversy. That's when it becomes organizing, right? Socrates. I doubt that witches are made out of wood, right? One of these fucking things, right? Just to pick, a Dark Ages style fallacy, right? And now, because of how that fucks with the witch hunter grift, you get all of the people that believe they are dependent on witch hunters and the things that are foundational for how witch hunters determine their witches. You now have a serious amount of controversy because you don't want to have the people siding with the witches. That would be awful. Right? So you're organizing a pro-witch movement because you want everybody to stand on their doubts that witches are made out of wood and that they're probably made out of flesh and blood, like you and me. Oh my gosh, that would be too human of them. They would become human, and then we can't burn them. They have to be non-human. Otherwise, the God said we can't do it. We can't sacrifice humans, so we have to dehumanize them so we can sacrifice them. See, like, the second that Jesus came along and said, no more human sacrifices, somebody came along and said, I got an idea. Not every biped is human. Yay! We can go back to sacrificing people, right? We can go back to exploiting people. Going back to treating people the way we did during the exploitations of slavery. No, Socrates didn't have a co-pilot, and Socrates was actually a slave himself. A lot of people don't know that because a lot of people don't know what slavery actually is and what it actually was. So anyway, all right. So Socrates was carrying out the first stage, making revolutionaries. If he had been permitted to continue raising questions about the meaning of life, to examine life and refuse the conventional values, the internal revolution would soon have moved out into the political arena. Those who tried him and sentenced him to death knew what they were doing. All right, so the second thing on the list is irreverence. Curiosity and irreverence go together. Curiosity cannot exist without the other. See, here's the other thing about the organizers, the activist. Like, it can't be based on curiosity. You have to have an already satiated curiosity. All he's talking about is the precursors to the personality that would be an organizer or the leader of radicals. But the curiosity itself isn't a quality that you have as one of those. In fact, you're going to be looking for curious people to satiate their curiosity with some answer that you found. Right? I have my little answers that I found, and I don't even use that for organizing. I mean, I just sit here, I do my thing. I don't fight the algorithm that stands against me. And people come and they sub when they want to. They find it. Eventually, I get reshared. The only way you beat the algorithm is if the right people really put you on blast in the right networks. And because I am not built for someone to comfortably say, oh man, I can't share him with my friends. I kind of like him, but, nobody would get it. I get it, but nobody else I know would get it. Then you don't have a group in which to share me. My package isn't made for prime time, right? My production. Dear God, another day without a fucking shirt. What is it with this fucking guy, right? So anyway, irreverence. Curiosity and irreverence go together. Curiosity cannot exist without the other. Curiosity asks, is this true? Just because this has always been the way, is this the best or right way of life? The best or right religion, political or economic value, morality? To the questioner, nothing is sacred. He detests dogma, defies any finite definition of morality, rebels against any repression of a free, open search for ideas, no matter where they may lead. He is challenging, insulting, agitating, and discrediting. Right, so here is where I have, hi, Autumn Vibes. Here is where I have a little bit of this universal issue, because it turns the whole thing, it ultimately tries to say, right there in that statement, is that revolutions don't really have morality. Their morality doesn't... Okay, Autumn, yes, I notice you. Don't be weird like that. Do not be weird like that. You know I am too small to have, fangirls on this, sweetheart, there ain't nothing romantic happening around here. This is all ugly and low quality and is what it is. Just be thankful that I'm a little bit funny. Alright, So, to the questioner, nothing is sacred. He detests dogma, defies any... okay, so about the questioner, right? There's naturally that. I'm constantly in question of all sorts of things. It's why I'm here, and I have... Are mad that I'm gay? Do you support LGBTQ? I support human beings who do their thing unto themselves. I do not support groomers, because grooming of all kinds from any ideology is fascism by its etymological original definition, as then applied under cultural terms and then applied under tactics in civil discourse and revolution. The uniforming of things. So I don't attach on to anything. If you are a human being who has the qualities, bro, I'm not a girl. Okay, well then you wouldn't feel so weird, right? You don't have to hang off my dick. Welcome, you're here. If you are gay, then that's cool. You're fine. You're welcome here. If you are trying to take people that don't have agency, people with disabilities, mental disabilities, small children, if you are trying to take them and trying to groom them, then I'm not friendly with you. But if you just simply are and you want your rights, your freedoms, your liberties on an equal playing field under the eyes of our society, then yeah, then everybody is cool. All right. So tell me, what's some of your favorite content that I have made? What do you love about my content so much? All right. Other than the fact that maybe you're completely in love with me. I'm 9 and I'm gay. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, you are a child and you cannot be here because I do not make videos for children. So, you gotta go. Alright. Anyway, we will not be entertaining minors on this channel. Okay. He is challenging, insulting, agitating, and discrediting. He stirs unrest, as with all life. This is a paradox, for his irreverence is rooted in a deep reverence for the enigma of life and an incessant search for its meaning. Right, I would say that I don't have a reverence for the enigma of life. I have a reverence for that which is enigmatic in life. I don't actually want it to be a mystery. I mean, I want it to it's going to be a mystery. But I want that mystery revealed at some point. And then there will be another mystery after that layer. So on and so forth. We're dealing with that right now. Many layers of the questions we finally started fucking asking 25 years ago. Now with the answers that have emerged. We now have new questions and more clarity about what the world is, with the irony of how many people refuse not to see it because of how many of those issues got dumped into partisan politics, which it never had before, right? All of a sudden, a fringe bipartisan conversation of the controversies of the 9/11 Commission report and 9/11 as a whole, as we think of it, has now turned into something monstrously different, as you've got the semi-irrational Fahrenheit 9/11 kind of liberal controlled narrative of 9/11. And then you've got your loose change situation, and all the guys that seem to just kind of be baseline, like, alternative news patriots like Alex Jones. Mentioned Alex Jones a couple of times. Did I mention him earlier today? Earlier in this show? Or was it... I don't remember when I mentioned him. Maybe it was in the car. But, Alex Jones, who had become, just dyed-in-the-wool, like, right-wing, dyed-in-the-wool for, Israel, right? He eventually decided to put himself in a camp. And may or may not have certain kinds of fundamental shifts, but he's going to always... We all know what he's always going to do when it comes to certain agreements. But anyway, we're going to get back to this in a few minutes. Well, let me get to the end of this passage, and then we're going to take a break, and then you get to see the cool little like loop that I've created. It could be argued that the reverence for others for their freedom from injustice, poverty, ignorance, exploitation, discrimination, disease, war, hate, and fear is not a necessary quality in a successful organizer. All I can say is that such reverence is a quality I would have to see in anyone I would undertake to teach. All right, we will hit imagination. Whoops. Come on. Oh my gosh, what happened? I hit the button. I know I hit the... See? Ugh, I don't... One sec, why is this? Right, click the switch touch input, click the switch to mouse input mode, whatever. Alright, whatever, okay, that's fine. That'll do. Alright, let me pick a song real quick. I've been having a little bit of trouble trying to find what I'm going to work. Alright, I don't know what this is. I hope that it's fun. Band's called Bright Eyes. When the President Talks to God. And if this kind of sucks, I see a song right next to it that I'm going to risk trying instead.
When the president talks to God, are the conversations brief or long? Does he ask to rape our women's rights and send poor farm kids off to die? Does God suggest an oil hike when the president talks to God? When the president talks to God, are the consonants all hard or soft? Is he resolute all down the line? Is every issue black or white? Does what God say ever change his mind when the president talks to God? When the president talks to God, does he fake that drawl or merely nod? Agree which convicts should be killed, where prisons should be built and filled, which voter fraud must be concealed when the president talks to God? When the president talks to God, I wonder which one plays the better cop. We should find some jobs, the ghetto's broke. No, they're lazy, George, I say we don't. Just give them more liquor stores and dirty coke. That's what God recommends. When the president talks to God, do they drink near beer and go play golf, while they pick which countries to invade, which Muslim souls still can be saved? I guess God just calls a spade when the president talks to God. When the president talks to God, does he ever think that maybe he's not? That voice is just inside his head when he kneels next to the presidential bed? Does he ever smell his own bullshit when the president talks to God? I doubt it. I doubt it.
There she goes. Okay, good. Welcome back. Okay, let us hop back into the show. Alright. Where was I? Imagination, that's where I was. Imagination is the inevitable partner of reverence and curiosity. How can one be curious without being imaginative? According to Webster's Unabridged, imagination is the mental synthesis of new ideas from elements experienced separately. The broader meaning starts with the notion of mental imaging of things suggested but not previously experienced, and thence expands to the idea of mental creation, poetic idealization, creative imagination. To the organizer, imagination is not only all this but something deeper. It is the dynamism that starts and sustains him in his whole life of action as an organizer. It ignites the feeds, the force that drives him to organize for change. Yes, I'll get behind that. I'd say the organizer would look at the collective that he is organizing as it's the paint, right? It's the paint, the engine of systems, the systems that are being organized for lawmakers and all whatevers, events, principles like an ongoing like food drive, right? Things like that. These systems, the organizer is creating it like art. With he is making utility use of people. This is just like Martin Heidegger in Being and Time, when he is getting into some of the more impersonal aspects of the existential experience, where you're just looking at other people in the context of roles in your story, as opposed to other people with their own roles in things. And in context of a shared desire, that's fine, right? It's like the job that I'm doing at the construction site. The deal is you pay me X amount of hours. I do a good job making this thing that has nothing to do with me. It's for someone else. That has to be organized, right? Because I show up, if nothing's organized, nobody knows what to do next, where, for things to be proper for the next step in the process. Certain things can't be done until other things have been done first to set them in their place, like building a scaffolding, right? You've got to build the scaffolding first before you start working on the outside or the underneath of the structure. And then you can't start replacing what you've destroyed in the structure until you've destroyed it, and then taken it away, cleaned it up, and started making your measurements to set up the new thing, right? This is a massive scale project that I'm going to be doing for the winter. It's going to be a little bit cold. I am hoping that the work gloves are all I need to keep my hands warm. I'll probably talk to guys about that, right? Because this will be my first winter in construction. Last winter, I was still doing general labor. I think last winter, I think I was still with the labor temp agency, and they had me, I think that was when I was working Loa Boots. Yeah, so I was at the boot warehouse for that winter. Yeah. That was cool. But anyway, let's keep going here. All right, so I'm actually like I get it with right like my Leo energies looking at the Aquarian energies in the world. I get it, especially with my South Node in Aquarius. I can really kind of look at this in where it's rooted for people. To the organizer, imagine is not only that of something deeper, right, where it ignites the feel. Okay, so there was a time when I believed that the basic quality that an organizer needed was a deep sense of anger against injustice, and that it was the prime motivation that kept him going. I now know that it is something else, this abnormal imagination that sweeps him into a close identification with mankind, that projects him into its plight. He suffers with them and becomes angry at the injustice and begins to organize the rebellion. Right. However, this can be. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with an organizer, right? Because you see, an organizer doing that, especially if they are in that state of connection with the people, you may not have enough of your own individuation, or you may be abandoning your individuation for the greater cause, right? You see, okay, so as far as I know, the one or two certain metrics that makes Donald Trump the same as other presidents, even though he acts different, is A, he is in the Society of Cincinnati, and B, he has a profound connection to this Epstein situation that may be his guilt in it. And that blackmail is part of his in ticket as being permitted by the entrenched bureaucracy of the Fed that we call the swamp/deep state to perpetuate. So, why does Don not play the same fucking game as the others did? Or, well, you know, he kind of is, he's kind of turning into a fucking neocon now. I don't understand why, like, I don't, like, did the neocon culture just re-amend itself? Like, obviously, like, what does one do if you have to be democratic? What does one do? And it's very, and how easy or hard is it to actually lie to these people? Right? I find it hard to believe I don't know. Sometimes I want to wake up and say that this is such bullshit that nobody's dead, right? Like somebody just filmed a war, or this was one war that happened 15 years ago, and that they're playing that footage like it happened yesterday, because it was only circulated in Bosnia for a long time to let Bosnians know what was going on in Tel Aviv or Gaza, right? Because, you know, you want to fucking organize? What are you organizing around? You don't know what is anymore. You need to organize around the fucking fact that you know that you don't know how certain things are, because look at what you both don't know when you end up fighting each other. The arguments you have, and can anybody admit that I don't know about X, Y, and Z things, but you don't know either? Can we both fucking come together and find out to make sure that we're arguing our positions under reality? Or do we just accept it from right here with our incongruencies and whatever, right? But I mean, ultimately, we're all going to be different at the end of the day, and you got to be able to fucking tolerate that. But tolerance doesn't work if one person's way that they are is in violation of other people. If it's transgressible, then you're out of accord with true law, because somebody is not being treated right because they're not doing anything untowards on you. If at the worst everything's indifferent, but now you're being a transgressor. We're either kindly to each other or transgressing, or we're indifferent. It's one of those three. It can't be any other. We're along that spectrum somewhere. The indifferent, the kindly, and the transgressor. Clarence Darrow put it on more of a self-interest basis. I had a vivid imagination. Not only could I put myself in other person's place, but I could not avoid doing so. My sympathies always went out to the weak, the suffering, and the poor. Realizing their sorrows, I tried to relieve them in order that I myself might be relieved. Imagination is not only the fuel for the force that keeps organizers organizing, it is also the basis for effective tactics and action. The organizer knows that the real action is in the reaction of the opposition. Let's read that again. Imagination is not only the fuel for the force that keeps organizers organizing, it is also the basis for effective tactics and action. The organizer knows that the real action is in the reaction of the opposition. Right, this is where you are trying to put yourself in a way that does things that elicit a certain response out of another who is using their position to undermine your movement. So to realistically appraise and anticipate the probable reaction of the enemy, he must be able to identify with them too in his imagination and foresee their reactions to his actions. See, this is again where a lot of leftists that I talk to fail, right? They complain because their gaslighting, their dishonesty wasn't working, where they're just calling every fucking bad actor in the name of Antifa a Fed, just because they don't want to be associated with what those Feds did. But yet, when someone hasn't claimed that somebody playing the Antifa part has done a certain thing that they approve of, then it's all great because of just independent people taking up the flag to let people know that they stand against fascism, which is the best and goodest thing that one can be. And how dare you call an anti-fascist a violent person? Violence is always justified against fascists, don't you know? And don't you know what a fascist is? Didn't you go to school? Didn't school teach you who, by law, you can punch? Laugh at him. He flunked social order class. He flunked socialism, kids. He doesn't know who to punch in the face. Dunce, put him in the corner. He doesn't know what a fascist is. That's the way the eternal children. The eternal fucking children. They're gonna like grow to be like in their mid-40s, like young Gen Xers like me, and they're gonna look older than me, and they're gonna fucking act like children like that. They're just gonna be these sad little little trolls that don't look as distinguished as they ought to be. They're not doing as well in life. They need to pick on people because their lives aren't all that grand, and they're just bored on social media because they're millennials in their 30s perusing the internet. And I can't wait for Gen Z to start ripping on me and ripping on the millennials, when they're a little bit older and they're sick and tired of their bullshit. But the funny thing is with Gen X is that we're Gen X for a fucking reason, I mean, yeah, I've made particular decisions. I like to groom myself in a particular manner of the culture of the metalhead, and that's what I want to be a part of, right? It is my personal grooming standards that I have adopted because of what I love in my individuation process that happened to come from an informed sense of my taste, from taking in other people's ideas of, wow, a person could be like this and could do this and could wear that and could style this way and that. I like that. In fact, I got an idea for that I've never seen before, which is pretty cool because in general I've never seen that before, but I know that no one's ever seen that like this before. And now you've made something that's your own, the way that I typically try to be my own, which can be difficult, I wish I could just make everything myself, and I'm not interested in using AI to help me make it. I didn't draw this Egeshjelmer over my head. I just fucking took it from an image search. That's all I did was just take it. I just took it. Right? Whatever. It's just sitting there, not making me a fucking dime. Somebody wants to bug me because I used this image. Not that that ever has happened. I'm just using it as an example. So anyway. Alright. Clarence Dow put it more of a self-interest basis. Wait, it's not only fuel for the force that keeps running. Wait, hold on a minute. Yeah, reaction to the opposite. And foresee reactions to his actions. Okay, yeah. A sense of humor. Okay, so this is the next item on the list, obviously. Back to Webster's Unabridged. Humor is defined as the mental faculty of discovering, expressing, or appreciating ludicrous or absurd, incongruous elements in ideas, situations, happenings, or acts, or a changing and uncertain state of mind. The organizers searching with a free and open mind, void of certainty, hating dogma, finds laughter not just a way to maintain his sanity, but also a key to understanding life. Yes, and I've noticed something with the modern left versus the modern right. Now, the modern right is when everybody on the right was suffering under attack for basic things. The liberalism as a whole, Hollywood, Washington Democrats and stuff, just California culture, just its grandiosity, narcissism, gluttony, envy, and greed, just everything just fucking enormous fucking egregore just fucking collapsed, right, from a fight back that wasn't quite expected, right? And so everybody on the right was fairly funny, but it was fairly funny compared to the awful world it was joking about. That awful world was then destroyed into a different kind of awful world where they didn't have a voice in the public sphere, and it's had to reemerge by the sheer effort of the parallel networks that emerged for alternative media. And now, unfortunately, for no good fucking reason, things have gotten very, very, truly far right. For there to be this level of, like, sitting there and saying, can we address why nobody wants to talk about changing the law, amending the Constitution to fix this immigration issue? Trump is not doing anything but the full extent of the law as has always been written, and you have never fucking protested before, simply because you could never imagine that anyone would ever do such a thing. And so it's one thing if mistakes are made. It's another thing when it's a deliberate order, right? But if everything is within the law, then it's just a question for the executive of whether the duties and the limits that the law provides for them to do it were honored. So that way the government isn't in violation of the law. Which is why we have a separate judiciary in case the government is in violation of the law. Supreme Court being 1/3 of the king's power. I covered this when I said no kings and things. That drive stream, which was that was today or yesterday. But anyway, essentially, life is a tragedy, and the converse of tragedy is comedy. One can change a few lines in any Greek tragedy, and it becomes a comedy, and vice versa. Knowing that contradiction are the signposts of progress. He is ever on alert for contradictions. A sense of humor helps him identify and make sense out of them. I'll say yes, the organizer, because the organizer's got to be an activist, obviously. It's got to be a level of activism. Especially if we're talking about organizing for revolutions, because you're ultimately breaking something that's fucked up that you can laugh about. The left hasn't had good fucking jokes, and we need the left to have good fucking jokes about good issues, and they're not even good with it, other than to be really. Other than to be just very mean, right? And the right can also be very mean. I'm not fucking singling anybody out here, Both of them have these default modus operandi. This gets back to, honestly, it's the debate process, the argument process, the trolling process, and how your work with words will corner someone in their own logical fallacy. But if you're not capable of doing that, then you are just hoping to rattle them with insults. With insults and mockeries and things like that, which isn't humor. It's only funny if people don't like you and want to see you suffer. Then it's still not even funny, but it's Schadenfreude. Right? And it's because you think a person deserves the suffering, right? The Schadenfreude was very inappropriate when Charlie Kirk was killed. Highly inappropriate. Because we live in a society. And so, inappropriate workplace decorum, if you are a high-profile person with a high-profile social media page, there are limits to the good taste in which a company gives you the privilege of a position and a paycheck. You don't have a right to any job other than your own job. The only job you have a right to is the work you do for you. If you haven't figured out how to work for you, then you need to figure that shit out, because no one's stopping you. But no one wants to show you how to do it. No one wants to show me how to do it. and you have to take certain risks and do things that they said you can't do or you're not supposed to do, or you shouldn't do. You probably want to find your way of doing that, just like we always do. Come on. How many people shouldn't smoke weed? Because they'll get in trouble. Now you can't get in trouble for smoking weed anymore. But anyway, essentially life is a tragedy. Okay, I'm sorry, right? I already read that. Country sense of humor helps identify them. Okay, so humor is essential to a successful tactician, for the most potent weapons known to mankind are satire and ridicule. A sense of humor enables him to maintain his perspective and see himself for what he really is, a bit of dust that burns for a fleeting second. A sense of humor is incompatible with the complete acceptance of any dogma, any religious, political, or economic prescription for salvation. It synthesizes with curiosity, irreverence, and imagination. The organizer has a personal identity of his own that cannot be lost by absorption or acceptance of any kind of group discipline or organization. I now begin to understand what I stated somewhat intuitively in Reveil for Radicals, almost 20 years ago, that the organizer, in order to be part of all, can be part of none. Interesting. So there's a 20-year gap between these different Radical books. I'm wondering what he's written in between those books, too, now. A bit of a blurred vision of a better world. Okay, so I think that's the next item on the list. So I am going to take us into the next break, because we've been reading for just about that long. Let's see what we got here. Not everything on here is stuff I want to listen to, so I'm just doing real, and I don't want to, a lot of people fucking put the same shit on here, like The Clash, Chumbawamba. They're like, I already played this shit. A lot of the same fucking songs, too. Alright, let's see what Utah Phillips is. Solidarity Forever!
Well, this is the longest session I have ever been in my life, and my voice is about to fall apart, so I'm going to sing the last one. Rather, we are. I bet if I was to make book right now about what that song was, I wouldn't make very much money. You're right. Which one is it? Well, all right. I mean, what that sounds. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Is there aught we hold in common with the greedy parasite who would lash us into serfdom and would crush us with his might? Is there anything left to us but to organize and fight? For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. It is we who plowed the prairies, built the cities where they trade, dug the mines and built the workshops, endless miles of railroad laid. We stand outcast and starve amidst the wonders we have made, but the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us.
All right, I wasn't feeling that one. We'll try this. So that other song is just like, I didn't need to just hear a cheeky socialist glory, glory, hallelujah. It's just like, I want good music. I'm not grandstanding for things. Um, you know, I'm fine with just fucking like surrendering to 500,000. Like, do I say I'm just not I don't know, a capitalist anymore? Because maybe capitalism isn't the right word for what I love about, being able to establish your own, like, business, you know, um, within the law, and not restricting you in making a tremendous amount of wealth and keeping a fair and just portion of it, and that you give something that happens because of your wealth to your nation, and in some sort of proportion, which is why we like our percentiles. And it's just, I don't know what to tell fucking people. I don't know. They act like they don't want America, but then they can't think of a better fucking model than America. And then they have the audacity to say, no America at all. No USA at all. And for fuck's sake. And that's one of the big reasons. Everybody remembers that slogan is catchy. It's so catchy that we're going to remember it to use it against you. This was 2020, and before, no borders, no walls, no USA at all. No USA at all. So, I mean, like, every action requires an equal but opposite reaction. So, you have no compromise on globalist disillusion of sovereign nations. So, the extreme no compromise on the other side is hardcore, strict adherence to nationality status, citizenship, guest resident alien statuses, all the things involved. And yeah, it's a paperwork situation. But yeah, I can see why it's like, once you get like somebody to admit that they're a globalist, it's like you can't trust them with matters of national sovereignty. You can't trust them that, like, you can go let them fucking run a business, run an internal, like, domestic organization or whatever, but, like, don't give them fucking any fucking angle in with the world like that, because they're going to want to do things that compromise your nation. And it's just like these people, they complain when you try to make some standards and some limits for good and noble purposes, for the common good of a certain people living in a certain agreed upon way of life. Our Constitution lays out a certain relationship with the state and a relationship towards each other. It is a basis for our cultural tolerances. And each side acts like they couldn't possibly have conceived of such a rational reaction to their behavior. Right? People don't understand a damn thing. They don't understand a damn thing about what happened to Charlie Kirk and what happened to Jimmy Kimmel. They don't understand a goddamn thing about what happened leading up to 1947. They don't care. Why don't they care? Because their women don't care. There's not too much history they give a fuck about. They just care about the real-time humanity of the issue. So they don't want mansplaining. They don't want they don't want men's history. See, this historical precedent means your morality is wrong, and that we should take this side in the war. And the right, because it's a male-dominated mind on the right, does this furiously to the entirety of the left, who their men are in a female-dominated mind. You know? And both of them cuck in different ways, though. Because it's all about how the men play to the delusional illusions and fantasies of the woman. Who knows what the fuck is going on in Eric Kirk's Zionist mind? Her way of the world, her standard of morality, the manner in which that manifests via this relationship she will have with the Lord, which dictates how she deals with the death. Right? Because it's like, Jesus can't get killed. Jesus can't get shot in the neck. So she hasn't lost everything. Most people are used to, oh my God, your spouse died, you lost everything. But she's actually lost nothing. Because she never had Charlie. She was married to another man who had Jesus. They both had Jesus. And that is why she acts like this, is because she still has Jesus. And that's much better than Charlie. And that's a way that many psychotic, conditioned evangelicals are. And they're kind enough people to meet in person, whether they have a terrible opinion of you that they're going to share or not in person. You know, especially when they just check you out and they say like, oh, you don't even have to say a word. That's the way you are. Because, you know, I'm out in public the way I am. Granted, a lot of people call me Jesus, and I'm just, never call me that. Many people, they aren't Christians, but they don't mind being called Jesus because they don't know the consequences of being honored as a Jesus. No Jesus for me. A bit of a blurred vision of a better world. Much of an organizer's daily work is detail, repetitive, and deadly in its monotony. Monotony in its monotony, excuse me. I know this word. Why am I being dumb? In the totality of things, he is engaged in one small bit. It is as though, as an artist, he is painting a tiny leaf. It is inevitable that sooner or later he will react with, what am I doing? Spending my whole life just painting one little leaf. The hell with it, I quit. What keeps him going is a blurred vision of a great mural where other artists, organizers are painting their bits and each piece is essential to the total. Yeah, right, you know, I learned that lesson real well. The last two jobs I did were like the exact same kind of job. They were a medical wing of an office being renovated, and watching it, you know, like this is just after demo phase, and it's clean up and beginning to actually structurally build the place, and and watching it like transform into something. When they finally got the last paint job in, and then they're starting to install like the carpets and stuff like that, and it's just like it goes from being this crazy, really dangerous kind of work site to being like, man, I could take my helmet off if this wasn't still an OSHA work site, right? Because everything is looking good. It's already clean enough to be a doctor's office. They just haven't put anything in it yet, right? Like furniture wise. So it's been a cool and wild situation watching those transformations. Me coming in every day, seeing how it looks, as the day goes on, and looking in there and saying like, oh wow, that room really came together in the last 2 hours, didn't it? Right? Because of one particular job that got done where they finally were able to move a bunch of things into place, and now there's all the stuff is finally in the walls, and the walls are going up, and it's just like it looks like everything's the same every day, except it's really shifting in real time. It's a cool it's a very Aquarian process when you've got these massive work sites with a couple different levels of leadership going up to the foreman, who is making sure the whole place is on lock. So anyway, in the totality of things, he is engaged in one small... Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Piece essentially the total. All right. An organized personality. The organizer must be well organized himself. I am terribly organized. I'm more of an activist than an organizer. But I'm activisting in my own manner of being. Nothing to do with needing anybody else to act also. Even though, as a Leo, I could roll with that, but that's personality stuff. I got Saturn retrograde in Virgo in my natal chart. I'm not organized, and it's fucking bad. It's fucking bad. Anyway, himself, so he can be comfortable in a disorganized situation. But you know what? I am comfortable in disorganized situation. Like when I'm on the job site and everybody's going nuts about a thing, and I can tell that that everybody's doing everything out of order and nobody's made it clear, I will stop and I'll look and I'll listen. This is me leaning into the Heimdall energy of just full situational awareness, because I have to look at the chaos and knowing that I am not going to find the organization quite in it. I'm finding the linchpin. What's the thing where I'm just like, what can I say which will let everybody know, hold on a second, this is the problem here. And then once that's put out of the way, everything then makes sense to the actual immediate supervisor, who then says, okay, move that piece over there once that's done, and now go through the system we discussed to bring in all the boards and beams. That is something that I will do, right? If that happens, like, otherwise, like, I'm chilling, because 9 out of 10 times, it's, especially because I'm just a temp guy, right? But, I don't think precisely like that, for the most part. In ways that matter, I do. Using my temp privileges to not be forced to shave my face to save my job. Right? No, I will not be doing any chipping on this job, because I will not be I will not be groomed for the face mask. But I'm pretty hopeful that that won't be an issue. These guys, they like me thus far. I need a slightly better chance. It's only been 4 days. and I need more of a chance to get more done, because there's a lot of stuff alien to me happening with this job. It's definitely one of the biggest jobs I want to say that I'm doing, and could be one of the most dangerous, because I've not been on a job site in the demo phase. With all this concrete, there might be shit over my head, and like, we had to build a really sturdy fucking structure to be the false floor underneath this thing as we're tearing it up. Anyway, it is vital that he be able to accept and work with irrationalities for the purpose of change. With very rare exceptions, the right things are done for the wrong reasons. It is futile to demand that men do the right thing for the right reasons. This is a fight with a windmill. The organizer should know and accept that the right reason is only introduced as a moral rationalization after the right end has been achieved. Although it may have been achieved for the wrong reason, therefore he should search for and use the wrong reasons to achieve the right goals. He should be able, with skill and calculation, to use irrationality in his attempt to progress towards a rational world. For a variety of reasons, the organizer must develop multiple issues. First, a wide-based membership can only be built on many issues. When we were building our organization back in the back of the yards, the Polish Roman Catholic churches in Chicago joined us because they were concerned about the expanding power of the Irish Roman Catholic churches. Okay, so the Polish Romans and the Irish Romans were beefing. Religion, man, like, isn't it absolutely amazing the way this works, right? Right now, these guys are beefing. What the fuck are they beefing about? Don't both of their fucking cardinals and fucking bishops answer to the fucking Pope? Right? But it's not that simple at all. Our political divides, in whatever different ways, they still transfer into all manner of organizations. The Packing House Workers Union was with us, so their rival unions joined, trying to counteract the potential membership and power pickup. We didn't, of course, care why they'd join us. We just knew we'd be better off if they did. The organizer recognizes that each person or block has a hierarchy of values. For instance, let us assume that we are in a ghetto community where everyone is for civil rights. A black man there had bought a small house when the neighborhood was first changing, and he wound up paying a highly inflated price, more than 4 times the value of the property. Everything he owns is tied into the house. Urban Renewal now is threatening to come in and take it on the basis of a value appraisal according to their criteria, which would be less than 1/4 of his financial commitment. He is desperately trying to save his own small economic world. Civil rights would get him to a meeting once a month. Maybe he'd sign some petitions, and maybe he'd give $1 here and there. But on a fight against Urban Renewal's threat to wipe out his property, he would come to meetings every night. Next door to him is a woman who is renting. She is not concerned about Urban Renewal. She has 3 small girls, and her major worry is the drug pushers and pimps that infest the neighborhood and threaten the future of her children. That's racist, man. See how that works? But anyway, she is for civil rights too, but she is more concerned about a community free of pimps and pushers, and she wants better schools for her children. Those are her number 1 priorities. Next door to her is a family on welfare. Their number 1 priority is more money. Now, remember how his logic... Is he going to go back to remembering his 3 classes? Because I told you what the problems was with his issue of who the have-nots and the have-little-want-mores are. Across the street, there is a family who can be described as the working poor, struggling to get along on their drastically limited budget. To them, consumer prices and local merchant groupings are the number one priorities. Any tenant of a slum landlord living among rats and cockroaches will quickly tell you what his number one priority is, and so it goes. In a multiple issue organization, each person is saying to the other, I can't get what I want alone, and neither can you. Let's make a deal. I'll support you for what you want, and you support me for what I want. Those deals become the program, right? And yes, and part of the reason why I am at the point that I'm at now against immigration policy and the state of our immigration laws, perhaps, is because this principle of being able to make a deal, it's really like there's no full-throated manner of, like, there's no examples. Like, Trump doesn't come out and say, not the worst fucking proposal, but Democratic Senator such and such wants to do this thing, and it's kind of ridiculous, but honestly, I got a few ideas that I'd like to bang them out with him, because I don't want to take it in this form, but I kind of appreciate the end that he is looking for. We can't agree on a fucking end, right? You can't, and you can't look at the guys who won the fucking election and just be cool. And that's why we're also here with the government shutdown, because of the filibuster situation. And how are we going to flip the script? And we ain't going to flip the script, you know, if you think this left-right thing fucking matters in 2026. I think last time we had enough fucking senators to break the filibuster, like we had like 61 senators or something of one party. We still had fucking problems because like one or two fucking senators from, you know, the party in power would tip the fucking thing back into filibuster territory. You have to have a goddamn ridiculous fucking lead to prevent this shit. You've got to have like fucking like 70 fucking senators. And that trend ain't going to happen under the attitude of this party, and especially how it can set up the other party. I hate how the other party has been set up in this manner too. I'm standing on a position. I'm not standing with anybody. Because none of these people know me and I don't know fucking them. They don't care about me. I'm not invited to the revolution. Nobody invited me to the revolution on January 6th. I'm not an asset. Because I come in and I want to fucking constructively undermine what you're doing fucking wrong. If I look at it and I see the directive, like, it's just like, I'm not going to tell you what to fucking do with your fucking movement, but if your movement is off of a fucking cliff, I have an obligation to call it. Otherwise, I might be trying to help. I don't know. We haven't established trust yet because I don't know who the fuck you are. Simple. Not only does a single or even dual issue organization condemn you to a small organization, it is axiomatic that a single issue organization won't last. An organization needs action as an individual needs oxygen. With only one or two issues, there will certainly be a lapse of action, and then comes death. Multiple issues means constant action in life. If these No Kings and anti-ICE protests persist in a manner similar to the Occupy movement, I might find time in an evening or a weekend to show up and use my empathic abilities and see how things go when I show up and hit a vibe check, get the psychic weather reports, see if I can meet a few friendly faces, see if I can meet anybody who has certain mixed values like myself, not somebody who's just there, who is currently morally correct. All right, listen. The No Kings people, because that is wrapped up into the ICE protest thing, the way things have gone with all this as stated, the script has flipped for me, and you guys are in the moral correct because I'm kind of sick of this. Because I am pretty certain that this administration already did the great job I had hoped for in getting rid of all the actual criminals, but the level in which they're just getting the dudes that are just laying, like, we gotta fucking solve these issues seriously, right? There are plenty of, we gotta solve the tertiary issues, because I think it's better that these people stay. I work with plenty of people that only speak Spanish, are working on it, and you don't need that much of a language fucking situation otherwise, and I'm pretty sure they pick up on things that are universal, like hammer. So, yeah. So, nah, dude, like, it's alright, man. This is not like a hill to die on. I don't think the extreme right should be dying on this level of a hill. It's just a bit, but it's a bit disgusting that the Democrats can't be fucking honest with their own about what they're really fucking asking for. Because this is still, it's still pretensed in also trying to open certain floodgates. And like I said in one of my prior videos, sure, let's naturalize them, but there's so many caveats. There's so many things that also have to be done. I'm concerned about what's humane, but also certain things will have to change for them to be free in our country, right? I feel better if you want to be an American citizen in America, don't be a dual citizen. All right? Which, by the way, that also is a raw deal for Zionists. This is part of the reason why. Because you've got so many dual citizens in the United States elected office that they don't want to change the law to illegalize dual citizenship. Because of how many Israeli citizens, think about it, Israeli citizens, they are Israeli citizens that are senators and congressmen and presidents. What does that fucking mean? Think about it. Like I said, you guys are morally correct. You're still fucking retarded, but I love you people. Okay? An organizer must become sensitive to everything that is happening around him. He is always learning, and every incident teaches him something. He notices that when a bus has only a few empty seats, the crowd trying to get on will push and shove. If there are many empty seats, the crowd will be courteous and considerate, and he muses that in a world of opportunities for all, there would be a change in human behavior for the good. In his constant examination of life and of himself, he finds himself becoming more and more of an organized personality. I know it's Saturday night. Let me just double check here. I am still... because nobody's been in the chat room since I got rid of that guy. I'm about to go to break, too. I want to keep going tonight. Definitely still live, right? Definitely still live. And that's okay. How can curious without being imaginative. Okay, and the audio's fine. Alright. Okay, I do want to turn it up a hair. Alright. Actually, that's the next thing. Yeah, no. Here's a good time. All right, we're going to take a break. I think this will be the last break. I think I did, 2 hours tonight? Pretty proud of myself. All right, let's see here. What do we got? John Magnuson's Set Me on Fire. Let's see if this is any good.
Set me on fire. Put something in my bloodstream to take away the pain. Attenuate my anxiety, make me go astray. Then cover me with blankets, ease my aching heart. I don't wanna be a martyr, though I suffer for the art. Set me on fire. Don't preach about eternity while life is fairly well. Don't lie to us, I know that there's no heaven, there's no hell. And if Jesus is your savior, cross me off your list. In the end I might get burned, but I gladly take that risk. Set me on fire. Set me on fire. Set me on fire. And keep the fire burning. Don't tuck me into sleep. Whisper softly in my ear that I'm the one you'll keep. I might get overheated, I might put on a show, but what's the point in holding back? I never liked it slow. Set me on fire. 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 Set me on fire.
Gallant cowards, ride the pole. Rise above, we're gonna rise above. Make this short, is what we say. Rise above, we're gonna rise above. Rise back, is what we do. Rise above, we're gonna rise above. When they can't lose themselves. Rise above, we're gonna rise above. We are tired of your abuse. Try to stop us, it's no use. Society's out of control. Rise above, we're gonna rise above.
back for one more read-through. So I want to... I'm on page 94. I want to get to at least page 100 before I call it. And I should be able to read straight, unless I go on a really long-winded tangent. We'll see how many pages I can get done here. 6 might be a lot. A well-integrated political schizoid. The organizer must become schizoid politically in order not to slip into becoming a true believer. Oh, this is interesting. So he says the organizer should not be a true believer. I don't know. A true believer, you get radicalized into a blind, into like a tunnel vision, right? That's what happened to Q Shaman. He had tunnel vision and became the clown prince of conspiracy theorists, and was offered up as a sacrifice to the war god. Before men can act, an issue must be polarized. Men will act when they are convinced that their cause is 100% on the side of the angels and that the opposition are 100% on the side of the devil. He knows that there can be no action until issues are polarized to this degree. I have already discussed an example in the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Particulars, that conspicuously omitted all the advantages the colonies had gained from the British and cited only the disadvantages. What I am saying is that the organizer must be able to split himself into two parts. One part in the arena of action where he polarizes the issue to 100 to nothing. Or, crapola. Hate it when I do that. Did I make a mess? No? Good. Alright. Sorry. Well, the other part knows it's coming, not really only 100% on. Well, the other part knows that when the time comes for negotiations, that it really is only a 10% difference. And yet both parts have to live comfortably with each other. Only a well-organized person can split and yet stay together. But this is what the organizer must do. Ego. Throughout these desired qualities is interwoven a strong ego, one we must describe as monumental in terms of solidity. Here we are using the word ego as discussed in the previous chapter, clearly differentiated from egotism. Ego is unreserved confidence in one's ability to do what he believes must be done. An organizer must accept without fear of worry that the odds are always against him. Having this kind of ego, he is a doer and does. The thought of copping out never stays with him for more than a fleeting moment. Life is action. Yes, because to be an organizer is to play Leo, and to organize the people have to play Aquarius. A free and open mind and political relativity. The organizer, in his way of life, with his curiosity, irreverence, imagination, sense of humor, distrust of dogma, his self-organization, his understanding of the irrationality of much of human behavior, becomes a flexible personality, not a rigid structure that breaks when something unexpected happens. Now, this is more political. This is also how you act when you're harvesting fucking votes. Harvesting louche also. Keep that in mind. Saul may be kind of explaining this, or without realizing it. Or maybe he realizes it. I don't know. We'll see. Having his own identity, I mean, he probably will say it in other terms, because louche wasn't in his vernacular. Having his own identity, he has no need for the security of an ideology or a panacea. He knows that life is a quest for uncertainty, that the only certain fact of life is uncertainty, and he can live with it. He knows that all values are relative in a world of political Excuse me. Oh my God. In a world of political relativity, because of these qualities, he is unlikely to disintegrate into cynicism and disillusionment, for he does not depend on illusion. Finally, the organizer is constantly creating the new out of the old. He knows that all new ideas arise from conflict, that every time man has had a new idea, it has been a challenge, to the sacred ideas of the past and the present, and inevitably a conflict has raged. Curiosity, irreverence, imagination, sense of humor, a free and open mind, an acceptance of relativity of values, and the uncertainty of life. See, the relativity of values, right? That's the fairness of when, if someone like me approaches with cutting questions to somebody, that they don't just fall right into some sort of fucking rhetoric. Right? They start throwing me algorithmic statements. Right? At that point, you're not arguing with a person. You're arguing with the machine itself, because they have had their ego step aside and replaced it with fancy rhetoric that comes from an isolated understanding from life that they came from, which falls apart when it is pressed against the will of a stronger psychic field, such as myself. All right. Finally, the organizer is constantly creating the new out of the old. He knows that all new ideas arise from conflict, that every time man has had a new idea, it has been a challenge to the sacred ideas of the past and the present, and inevitably a conflict has raged. Curiosity, irreverence, imagination, sense of humor, a free and open mind. Oh, I'm sorry, I already read that. Certainty of, goddamn, sorry people. He conceives of creation as the very essence of the meaning of life. In his constant striving for the new, he finds that he cannot endure what is repetitive and unchanging. For him, hell would be doing the same thing over and over again. This is the basic difference between the leader and the organizer. The leader goes on to build power to fulfill his desires, to hold and wield the power for purposes both social and personal. He wants power himself. The organizer finds his goal in creation of power for others to use. These qualities are present in any free, creative person, whether an educator, or in the arts, or in any part of life. In Adam Smith's The Money Game, the characteristic of the desirable fund manager are described. It is personal intuition, sensing patterns of behavior. There is always something unknown, undiscerned. You can't just graduate an analyst into managing funds. What is it the good managers have? It's a kind of locked-in concentration, an intuition, a feel. Nothing that can be schooled. The first thing you have to know is yourself. A man who knows himself can step outside himself and watch his own reactions like an observer. One would think that this was a description of an organizer, but in everything creative, whether it is organizing a mutual fund or a mutual society, one is on the hunt for these qualities. Why one becomes an organizer instead of something else is, I suspect, due to the difference of degree of intensity of specific elements or relationships between them, or accident. All right, so we are 3 pages shy of 200, and then it enters a new chapter, communication. Let me take a look and see how this organizes itself. Okay, there's some quotes here. All right. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Where am I? 97. All right, about Yep, about 3 more pages. That'll be fine. We're going to go a little over 2 hours. One can lack any of the qualities of an organizer, with one exception, and still be effective and successful. That exception is the art of communication. It does not matter what you know about anything if you cannot communicate to your people. In that event, you are not even a failure, you're just not there. Communication with others takes place when they understand what you're trying to get across to them. If they don't understand, then you are not communicating regardless of words, pictures, or anything else. People only understand things in terms of their experience, which means that you must get within their experience. Further communication is a two-way process. If you try to get your ideas across to others without paying attention to what they have to say to you, you can forget about the whole thing. I know that I have communicated with the other party when his eyes light up and he responds, "I know exactly what you mean. I had something just like that happen to me once. Let me tell you about it." Then I know that there has been communication. Recently, I flew from O'Hare Airport in Chicago to New York. After the jet pulled away from the gate, we heard the familiar announcement. "This is your captain speaking. I am sorry to advise you that we are number 18 for takeoff. I am turning off the no smoking sign and will keep you posted." Many a captain feels compelled to keep you entertained with an incessant stream of verbal garbage. You will be interested to know that this airplane, fully loaded, weighs blah blah tons. You couldn't care less, or our flight plan will carry us over Bazicus, Ohio, and then Junk Spot, etc., etc., etc. However, on this trip, the captain of the plane touched on the experience of many of the passengers and really communicated. In the midst of his entertainment, he commented, "Incidentally, I will let you know when we get the takeoff clearance, and from the instant you hear those jets roar for takeoff until the instant of liftoff, we will have consumed enough fuel for you to drive an automobile from Chicago to New York and back with detours as well." You could hear such comments as, "Oh, come on, he must be kidding." With the announcement of clearance and the takeoff runs, passengers all over the plane were looking at their watches. At the end, approximately 25 seconds to liftoff, passengers were turning to each other saying, "Would you believe it?" It was evident that, as you might expect, many passengers had been concerned at some time with the number of miles a car could travel on a given amount of gas. Educators are in common agreement on this concept of communication, even though few teachers use it, but after all, there are only a few real teachers in that profession. An educational leader makes this point of understanding and experience in a very personal way. When he has had experience of life, read Homer and Horace by all means, says Newman, feed mind and eye and ear with their images and languages and music, but do not expect to understand what they are really talking about before you are 40. This truth was first brought home to me more than 30 years ago. One December day, as I walked down the road from Argentières to Chamonix after a snowfall, and suddenly from the abyss of unconscious memory a line of Virgil rose into my mind, and I found myself repeating, "Sad sed esset ageribus nivius infirmis it alto, terra gelu." I had read the words at school and no doubt translated them glibly. The earth lies formless under snowdrifts and deep frost. But suddenly the snow scenes before my eyes, I perceived for the first time what Virgil meant by the epithet informis, or without form. Informis means without form. So what does inform really mean? What does it mean to be informed? Are you informed or are you in form? And how perfectly it describes the work of snow, which literally does make the world formless, blurring the sharp outlines of roofs and eaves, of pines and rocks and mountain ridges. Yeah, it's all that layering. Yeah, that's a good point. I see. I can be taken to that place right now. I feel that. I get that. Taking from them their definiteness of shape and form, yet how many times before that day had I read the words without seeing what they really mean? It is not that the word informus meant nothing to me when I was an undergraduate, but it meant much less than its full meaning. Personal experience was necessary to real understanding. Sir Richard Livingston on Education, New York, 1945. Every now and then I have been accused of being crude and vulgar because I have used analogies of sex or the toilet. I do not do this because I want to shock particularly, but because there are certain experiences common to all, and sex and toilet are two of them. Furthermore, so's eating, walking down the street, going to work, putting on clothing, writing a book, we're writing in a book, writing on paper, writing a letter, driving your car is okay. Maybe not everybody drives a car, but having shelter. There's so many things. Even a homeless person has a shelter. It's a shit shelter. It's like a fucking box. But the point is that it still counts as a shelter. You can still use it as a shelter, and narratively is officially properly a shelter, right? It fits the definition identifying traits of shelter, which shelter goes from the absolute basics of I got a box to here's a fucking mansion. All right. Furthermore, everyone is interested in those too, which can't be said of every common experience. I remember explaining relativity in morals by telling the following story. A question is put to 3 women, 1 American, 1 British, and 1 French, what they would do if they found themselves shipwrecked on a desert island with 6 sex-hungry men. The American woman said she would try to hide and build a raft at night or send up smoke signals in order to escape. The British woman said she would pick the strongest man and shack up with him so that he could protect her from the others. The French woman looked up quizzically and asked, "What's the problem?" Since people understand only in terms of their own experience, an organizer must have at least a cursory familiarity with their experience. It not only serves communication, but it strengthens the personal identification of the organizer with the others and facilitates further communication. For example, in one community there was a Greek Orthodox priest who will be called here the Archimandrite Anastopoulos. Why do we have to call him such a complicated thing? Who will be called here? Was there not a simpler term to call him, if that's what we're just going to call him? Why is he called this? Why couldn't there be a simpler term to call him? Because this doesn't mean anything to me yet. Right? Let me read a little bit further and see if he explains the meaning of this word. Every Saturday night, because this is the 100th page, so when I get to the end of this passage, I'm pretty much going to be done. Every Saturday night, faithfully followed by 6 of his church members, he would tour the local taverns. After some hours of imbibing, he would suddenly stiffen and become so drunk that he was paralyzed. At this point, his faithful 6, like pallbearers, would carry him through the streets back to safety of his church. Over the years, it became part of the community's experience, in fact, a living legend. In talking to anyone in that neighborhood, you could not communicate the fact that something was out of place, not with it, except to say it was out like the Archimandrite. The response would be laughter, nodding of heads. Yeah, we know what you mean, but also an intimacy of sharing a common experience. Okay, I get that. I want to call it right here. I'm going to call it right here. But before I actually call it, Archimandrite Anastapolis. Hold on a minute. Copy. Paste. What we got here? Okay, Wikipedia. I see. Okay. Using these superior abbot. Okay, so he was a superior abbot in Eastern Christianity. Right? So he's like a higher level kind of guy. Now, what is Anastapolis? Right? So that gave me Archimandrite, but what is Anastapolis? Gonna get Anastapolis, then I'm calling the show. All right? Close that because I don't care anymore. All right. It's Greek former football. Okay. There's a lot. It's a last name. I guess it was just this guy's last name. Let me see. Is there a etymology for this guy's name? See, he's got the polos in there, right? You know, it makes me think that, you know, like a necropolos, it means city. The city of Anasto. Right? So what is Anasto? Right? Anasto, polis, etymology. I'm not going to look at my red book for this one. Let's see. Anastomosis. An anatomy, union of interconnection of vessels. Anew. Okay, so it means anew. That's what the ana means, is new, but that's for the wrong word. Ancient faces, resources, word origins. No, I don't see it. It's something along the lines of the new city, right? Which that might be because it's a church, it might be an allusion to Jerusalem, like New Jerusalem. His name may be an allusion to that. All right, I'm convinced I'm not going to find it tonight in a reasonable amount of time. So I'm going to call the show here. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I'm asking myself, I wanted to take this one. There, I meant to blow that up. There we go. I had at one point 8 views going on this show. Thank you, the 8 of you. Thank you for the 2 likes, whoever bothered to like this. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. you have a great night. I'll see you soon. I'll try and do this again Sunday. I should be doing my rune readings with Stein sometime tomorrow. All right. Peace.